All right, y'all, good morning. So I figured I'd bring y'all along on another day in the life. This is the only way that content gets done is through these vlogs where I just turn on the camera because me trying to sit down and talk about anything is just non-existent in this season of my life, but that's okay. Welcome. Subscribe and join the ride. So I figured I'd just do another day in the life of work, faith, all the things. So I'll start with, it's 6:30. I'm running a little bit behind because I do have an early work day today, which I'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, it's 6:30. I figured I'd share my devotional. The anchor verse really that I've been studying is 1st and 2nd Corinthians. And one of my favorite verses is actually 2nd Corinthians 12:9-10, where it says, "Each time he said, 'My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, and persecutions and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong.'" And then on the Bible YouVersion app, which I'll put here if you want to download it, the verse of the day was talking about how salvation is a free gift. And if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe within your heart that he was raised from the dead, and confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, then you will be saved. Like, period. Like, salvation is not something that we earn. It's a free gift that's given to us. And then the devotional that I'm reading along with 1st and 2nd Corinthians talked about how the Holy Spirit is a free gift, and how sometimes we feel like we have to like be impressive in order to like receive God, if that makes sense. And how like, no, if you're like fully reliant on God, like that's the best place to be, because again, where we are weak, that's where his strength is. And it's not for us to like perfect ourselves. The Holy Spirit does the work within us. And so really good. I feel like God has really just been telling me over and over again, like, you cannot outwork your healing journey. You cannot outwork what I'm going to do in and through you. Like, it's not about being super productive. I've been like beating myself up because I can't get up at 5 a.m. because I've been so exhausted. And been struggling really bad with like physical fatigue since the beginning of the year, where it's just been like I need like more than 8 hours to like fully function. And I've been like mad because I'm like, I can't get as much done. And I feel like God has really been teaching me like, no, do what you can with the time that you have, with the strength that you have, and I will cover the gaps. And so that has really been encouraging me. I feel like everything that I've been reading, like between the word and devotionals and social media, stuff like that, has all been centered around like, you cannot outwork it. Like, God's love, God's grace, it is freely given. The work that he's going to do in and through you is freely given, and he does it. So that's why all we have to do is rely on him and surrender to what he's trying to do. So hopefully that was helpful to you as it was helpful to me. Like I said, we have a early, long, probably work day. I've been trying to get my new AI, my updated 6-month AI strategy together. So I figured I'd kind of share with y'all. Like, I did a video on TikTok about like how you have like 4 different types of project management, and how like, at first you're doing more admin work and then you start to move into more strategic leadership type work. So as I'm like updating my AI strategy, I figured I'll share with y'all the framework that I use to like build out strategic decks, if you're using that in whatever role that you may want to show that strategy in. And then we have a really big go live this week as well. So I need to be able to get myself together for that. There's so much stuff that still needs to be done, and the go live is tomorrow. So that's why it's been hard to like be consistent every single week, but I'm trying. I got a system. We just gonna keep doing these day in the life vlogs, and I'll share with y'all what I'm learning in my faith, what I'm learning in my career, what I'm learning in wellness and social things, and hopefully that is good enough for y'all, okay? For the time being. But anyway, let's get started with the day. Again, thank you for watching, and come along. right, y'all. So now that I'm on my lunch break, let's talk about how to be more strategic in your roles and how you can put together like strategic playbooks. And this is relevant if you have a business, if you work a 9 to 5. I feel like people in general are always like, you need to have a strategy, you need to be more strategic. But what does that actually mean, right? And I think sometimes like the word strategy can be super intimidating because it's assuming that you have to have all of the answers and know the strategy. When really being more strategic is more so about doing your market research, doing analysis, and being able to come up with a recommendation, and then bringing all the experts and stakeholders into the room to make the decision and to give the answer. And so whenever you're presenting anything, it doesn't even matter if it has anything to do with strategy or not, it's always better to give people something to react to versus just going in a meeting and saying, okay, y'all, what should we focus on? What should we talk about? Like, you always want to be able to give people the recommendation and do your due diligence. And then that will kind of create the conversation for everyone to work together on the decision, the strategy, the answer, whatever it is. So I'm going to try to make this really broad so that it can adapt. It can be applicable to everybody. But yeah, I use this as my strategic program management job in AI, but I also do this in my consulting business as well. So I'll kind of give my overall framework. I'm also going to link in the description the framework that I use and how I use AI. So be sure to download it. It's completely free. So I'll kind of give my overall playbook that I use for my strategies. And then if I need quick decisions made, how I use what's called the S-bar method for that. So let's get started. Get your pen and paper. All right, so let's walk through the 6 steps and then I'll go in detail on each one. So the first step is going to be current state assessment. The second one is going to be identifying the biggest pain points, opportunities, and by doing that analysis, being able to identify the biggest priorities or initiatives that you should focus on. Number 3 is going to be ranking those priorities and initiatives because you can't do everything at once. So you want to be able to rank them based off of importance and impact. 4th is going to be creating a roadmap or timeline. So based off of the priorities and initiatives that you have strategically recommended, this is going to be the roadmap and timeline to actually implement or execute on those priorities. This is going to be the impact and changes that need to be made. So your change management plan, what's going to change with all the different stakeholders and teams that are going to be impacted. So that's going to be your like process change management plan. And then how are you going to measure success and the result or value? So if you're implementing a new technology, a new process, how are you going to measure that actually works? And then yeah, those are my 6 steps. So let's break them down. So current state assessment, you can't really have a strategy for where you're going to go if you don't understand where you are. So let's say that maybe you have a process that you need to improve within your operations and it's clunky, it's labor intensive, or all these different steps that don't make sense, and it's like decreasing turnaround time, causing all these problems, right? Where before you create this whole new process that no one's probably going to adopt, you need to be able to make sure that you understand have a really clear picture on what's going on currently. So if I were doing like a process improvement project, I would map out in very key details like what that current process map looks like today. Let's say that maybe, in my situation within my AI job, like we're wanting to do more AI within the company. Well, let's see what we're currently doing within the technology or AI space, right? So you want to get a really clear understanding of where you are currently and make sure that it's documented and mapped out. That's the first step. Then based off of that, this is where you're going to start to use AI to do your market research, to do an analysis, again, to come up with a recommendation, because that's the goal, not coming up with the answer, coming up with a recommendation and providing the information, right? So the second step is going to be identifying what are the biggest opportunities, pain points, and based off of that, what is going to be the priority to focus on. So let's say maybe using that same process improvement example, you've identified like these are the biggest areas within the process that are like causing things to hang up, right? Or let's say maybe like these are the issues that I'm seeing within the organization that hinders our ability to adopt AI, right? This is also where you can use AI. Claude is my preferred tool for doing market research, or Perplexity. You can also use that too. And again, I'll put a whole thing down in the description so you can follow along. But you want to be able to do market research to say, okay, these are the biggest pain points, and this is how our competitors, our peers, these are how people in similar industries solve for this problem, right? So this is where you're going to want to be able to provide your market research, your analysis on that particular pain point or problem, so that again, you're making an educated decision on the recommendation to move forward, right? So that's the second step. Current state, do your market research analysis to understand the biggest opportunities and pain points, and then coming up with those lists of priorities. So using that same process improvement example, These are the biggest pain points within the process, and these are the biggest things that we need to focus on in order to improve that process, right? So this is going to be your recommendation of priorities or initiatives that you should focus on. Again, I'm trying to make this broad, but I hope y'all are following along. So once you've done the current state, you list out the things that you need to focus on. You obviously cannot do everything at one time, right? So you need to have a mechanism to be able to rank and prioritize what you're going to focus on first, second, or third, right? So let's say, for example, in my example within, working within AI, these are all the opportunities that where we could implement AI within the organization. And this is where we should start first, second, third, based off of, operational readiness, based off of the technology that's available. This will really depend on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to improve a different process within your organization for operations, like you'll want to prioritize maybe the biggest opportunity that can solve that can solve maybe like a big portion of the problem, right? And then you'll kind of do a stepwise approach to solve all the other problems within the process, if that makes sense. I know it's in the weeds, y'all. I'm trying to make this broad, but hopefully this is helpful. So you want to be able to rank your priorities based off of importance and impact, right? And then after that, now that you have the plan in place, when are you going to actually start implementing those changes or start working on those priorities? So the fourth thing is going to be putting together a roadmap and timeline. So again, I'm trying to teach here. Current state, what are the biggest opportunities, ranking those opportunities based off of importance and impact, and then this is the timing that we're going to execute on those opportunities. So this is where you're going to do your project plan, your schedule. This is where I put out my roadmap. Okay, for the next 6 months, this is what we're going to focus on for AI in the organization, right? So now that you have your roadmap, then you're going to talk about the process changes or the change management that's going to impact, again, this new process. So let's say that maybe you're working on this same operational process improvement project. This is where you're going to map out your future state. So maybe you had all these 6 steps as a part of the process, and maybe you've cut it down now to 3 steps. Who is going to be impacted by that, right? So a bunch of different teams, I would assume, are going to be impacted by that new process change. And so what's your plan for that change management? So what's going to be the communication plan? How are you going to test it out? How are you going to pilot it out? So that's where you're going to talk about like the how. So the roadmap is the when you're going to execute on those priorities. And then the change management plan is the how you're going to execute on those priorities. And then once you've done that, the 6th step, which is the last step, is this is how you're going to measure the impact. So this was your current process. It was clunky. You did your research analysis to understand where the gaps are. This is your recommended future state. This is when you plan to roll out that future state. This is how you plan to roll out that future state. And then these are the 3 to 5 KPIs that you're going to measure to show that that new process was successful. These are going to be the 3 to 5 KPIs to show that that new technology, that new AI, that new whatever was successful within your organization. So that's a framework that I use like for the big picture strategy playbooks that I put together. Again, whether I'm doing that for another company as a consultant or whether I'm doing that within my own job. And so hopefully that was helpful and can like help you at least get a framework together when it comes to like putting together these recommendations and presentations. Hopefully you can use it at some point in time. Now that's kind of like the big picture stuff. When I need like quick decisions made, I really like using the SBAR method, and this is like situation, background, assessment, and recommendation. So when I just need like a quick decision made, then I break out this little 1-pager. I quickly list out what is my problem statement. So what are we trying to solve? This is the background information I've been able to gather on the situation so far. So that's very similar to your current state. This is what I know so far. These are the issues that I know so far. What is the analysis that I did? That's where you're going to implement that's where you're going to do your market research to be able to make a recommendation, which is which again, recommendation, that's where you give input, not necessarily providing the answer itself that everybody has to stick to. So SBAR if you need quick decisions made, and then you can use that framework for like more strategic work that you do within your role. So hopefully this was helpful. My lunch break is over, so I actually don't have any more meetings today, so I'm gonna try to go to a coffee shop to get a bunch of admin work done for my job, and then we need to go for a walk or at least do some type of movement since I didn't get to work out this morning. And then I do have some client work for my business. So again, if you want more career tips, tell me in the comments, because this is how we're going to do this for the time being, because I can't sit down at any point in time. So, or at least do sit down videos at this point in my life. So let me know how you want me to incorporate different career questions you have within these vlogs, and let's come on to the next show. vlog because I want to go to bed. Yeah, I spent way too much time at the Beltline. I was at the Beltline for like 4 hours. I got a lot of work done, and then I got a lot of walking done. I walked for about 2 hours. I put here, I think I walked almost 5 miles, y'all. And you know, it's like one of those things where you don't realize how long you're walking on the Beltline because it's so long. I'm having to hold y'all up because this tripod is not working, and I'm done. I'm not filming nothing else. But you know, when you walk in, but you're done, you're tired, but you're so far from your car. I was like so tired, and I still had a mile and a half to go to get back to my car. So I'm tired. It's like 8:30, even though it's still light outside. It's 8:30. I have a 5 a.m. go live in the morning, so I'm done. This is all I can do. Thank y'all so much for walking. Thank y'all so much for walking. It's still in my brain, that long walk back to my car. Thank y'all for watching this vlog. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you are encouraged. Maybe you had a little kiki. Maybe you were inspired to get out the house if you work from home. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all. Please keep going. I will see y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.